Hey guys, Script Trooper here with another video. I wanted to talk about this Ewoks situation, right? There's a lot of people that just didn't... They love Return of the Jedi, but they just can't stand the Ewoks. So I just wanted to give my take on this whole thing and sort of talk about some of the things that people have been telling me on Twitter and just talking to friends and whatever. And it seems to be that one of the big issues people have is that there's pretty clear evidence to suggest that at one point they were going to make it Kashyyyk, that it was going to be the Wookiee planet. And a lot of people say, oh, I'd rather see the Wookiees. And I kind of get where they're coming from, right? Like the Wookiees, I mean, in the prequels when we did Kashyyyk, it was pretty cool. It was kind of cool to see the Wookiees planet and stuff like that, although there's not a whole lot of scenes on Kashyyyk, but there are some, and you do see sort of the Wookiees war machines and whatever, their weapons and stuff, and how they do things and stuff like that. And you see sort of different variations, but you know, there was a plan at one point for Endor to be the Wookiee planet. I guess maybe you'd call it Kashyyyk, whatever, doesn't matter. And the argument a lot of people make too is that it would have been more believable if it had been Wookiees instead of the Ewoks. Based on the way it was done, that is kind of true, actually, if you think about it. But however, having said that, what would you say, if you're watching this video, if they had made the Wookiee planet Endor and the Wookiees fought against the Empire the same way the Ewoks did? So they didn't have any of the tech they had in the prequels. They were literally like, you know, no tech, no blasters, no nothing. Would we still view it the same way? Or would we be like, oh, you know, it's part of Chewie's crew, blah, 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 blah. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, I'm not sure that was necessarily the answer either. The other point to this that I wanted to make was that you're building a universe, right? You're building a galaxy, and you want the galaxy to be big. And in Star Wars, in the original trilogy, we spend a lot of time with Chewie, right? He's in a lot of scenes. We experience Wookieness throughout, right? George wanted to change it to the Ewoks. And I think, in my view, it makes sense because it expands the galaxy. So now we have this other planet called Endor with this other alien species. While we still know that there's definitely Wookiees out there, even though we've only experienced one of them, but we know that they're out there. So that just, boom, expands the galaxy right then and there, expands the universe right then and there. Now, having said that, George also said, and this now I'm going to get into my issues with the Ewoks. Okay, I don't mind the Ewoks conceptually, and even I do enjoy some of the scenes, and they are ingenious in some ways, in some of the ways that the tactics they used. But number one, they made the stormtroopers really pathetic and way too comical in Return of the Jedi, and that made it less believable with Ewoks fighting them. But George himself said that he based the Ewoks off of the Viet Kong, and you know, when America was going in there. Now, obviously, George was very much against that war, obviously. A lot of people were in those days. But my whole thing is, like, if that's what he was basing it on, the Viet Cong were not using slingshots with rocks against the Americans. Like, yes, the Americans had more tech, but the way that war was fought was it was guerrilla warfare. Like, it was mostly guys with guns. There was not a whole lot of machinery, at least in the jungle, right? So that was one of the reasons the Americans did piss poor in that war. And if he was basing it off of that war, off the Viet Cong, why wouldn't the Ewoks have had blasters? And for you, would it have been more believable if the Ewoks would have had blasters? Right? That's where I kind of get lost. And I've said before, if the Ewoks had just had a little more tech, it would have been a little more believable. I don't see a problem with them having blasters. I mean, I think that's a galaxy-wide thing. And again, if that's what he was basing it on, that's what the reality of it was. The Viet Cong had machine guns just like the Americans had machine guns. So that, to me, was kind of weird. And then finally, I just want to go back to my previous point about the size of the galaxy and how the Ewoks expand on the size of the galaxy. And I want to just say this. This is one of the things that is being lost now. And I'll give you a prime example. And I've been thinking about this. I've tweeted about Salacious Crumb. To me, is just a funny little guy, right? That little alien guy that's sitting on the pillow by Jabba, right? His little alien buddy. So he's in Return of the Jedi. So we know there's this species of alien that is whatever he is. I don't even know. But Salacious B. Crumb species. We know they exist in the universe. Okay, there's some planet out there where these guys live. What Lucasfilm has done under Disney is they've now, so the Mandalorian goes to Navarro, right? And he's walking through the streets, and we see this tree full of those creatures. And I don't even know if it's the same episode, but then there's a later episode, I think, where you see them again, those alien creatures, whatever the species is, I can't remember, and they're being cooked. That's galaxy shrinking, right? Because we already know that there are those aliens out there. We've seen them in Return of the Jedi, so there must be some place out in the ether where these guys live, out in the galaxy. So by putting them into The Mandalorian, yes, you get a degree of nostalgia, but you shrink the galaxy because we already know that alien exists. Why wouldn't you put a different alien on Navarro that isn't part of canon yet? And then therefore expanding the universe that we're in, right? And that's the problem with Lucasfilm under Disney in a lot of ways, is they just keep repeating the same things over and over and over, like in terms of aliens and different things. And it's not, and getting to planets quickly, multiple planets a day, and everything's just kind of shrinking, and it's making it less believable. And then having all these characters constantly coming into contact with each other is also shrinking the galaxy. So at the end of the day, I say all that to say this. I think it was totally right for George to not use the Wookiees, because again, then we have this other alien race, and it just makes things, it makes the universe grow and expand and feel big, and the galaxy feels huge. But the Ewoks, for it to be believable, number one, you couldn't have stormtroopers just getting knocked around by Ewoks so easily. It was very corny at times, and probably should have given the Ewoks at least some level of tech. Maybe they were limited. Maybe only half of them had blasters or something, or it was older stuff, but something to make it a little more believable. That's my opinion, and I know this is a hot topic because people are talking about it on social media all the time, and so I'd like to know what you guys think. Do you agree with anything that I've said here, or are you just totally like, no, the Ewoks, dumb, no, whatever, or did you just really want it to be the Wookiees? Would you have just rathered that? So let me know in the comment section what you think. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Always helps the channel, and feel free to check out anything else on my channel, and have yourselves a really good day.